In this video, we're going to be covering some of the basic components of the Keynesian model that we'll be building out throughout the rest of this lecture. We'll start with the most basic type of capitalist economy, one in which there is only a private sector, just households and businesses. So we'll assume no government or public sector and a closed economy, which is just to say no foreign trade. In this case, aggregate demand is just consumption and investment, or what we'll call intended investment, and all income not spent on consumption is defined as income saved. So income, which we'll denote with a Y in the aggregate, is equal to C plus S, consumption spending plus savings. In equilibrium, then, total income must be equal to total planned spending, and all output must be purchased. We can just write this as AD equals Y. Aggregate demand equals output and income. This is true in both of our theories, neoclassical and Keynesian or post-Keynesian. Outputs will necessarily generate an equal amount of income. Some of that income then will become spending, and for the economy to be in equilibrium, the total spending or aggregate demand has to come out equal to outputs. So aggregate demand, again, in this simplified economy is just consumption spending plus intended investment spending. We can break that down further into consumption as a consumption function denoted by C bar plus MPCY, and then there's your intended investment, which is just going to be given in this model. The Keynesian consumption function consists of two parts. You've got C bar, which we'll call autonomous consumption. This tells us how much consumption spending would be spent regardless of income. So hypothetically, if we said the economy produced no income, C bar, autonomous consumption, is telling us how much consumption spending there would still be even though there's no income. So perhaps people are pulling out of their savings or what have you. The other part is the MPC, the marginal propensity to consume, times income. This term, MPC times Y, tells us how much of the total income generated in the economy will be spent on consumption, the rest being saved. So a little bit more on the marginal propensity to consume. When income goes up by some amount in the economy as a whole, we assume consumption will increase by some amount, but by less than the total increase in income. We can write this as the change in consumption divided by the change in income, delta C over delta Y, is somewhere between 0 and 1. Likewise then, since total income is equal to consumption spending plus savings, then it must be the case that when income goes up by some amount, savings will go up by some amounts as well. We can write this as delta S, change in savings, divided by delta Y, change in income, is somewhere also between 0 and 1. That delta C over delta Y is what we're calling the marginal propensity to consume. This is the term Keynes used, or just the MPC. That's the portion of an additional dollar of income that would become consumption spending. The delta S over delta Y then is the marginal propensity to save, the MPS, and that's just the portion of an additional dollar of income that would be saved. Note that it has to be the case that MPC plus MPS must come out equal to 1. If you add up the marginal propensity to consume and the marginal propensity to save, it should come out to 1 because any part of an additional dollar of income not spent on consumption is by definition going to be saved. Logically, then, you could always find the marginal propensity to save if you had the marginal propensity to consume by taking 1 minus the marginal propensity to consume. Likewise, the MPC would be 1 minus the MPS. So if I told you the marginal propensity to consume was, say, 0.8, then you would know that the marginal propensity to save is 0.2, and so on. So we've got this consumption function given by C bar, that's autonomous consumption, plus MPC, the marginal propensity to consume, times output and income, Y. We could derive mathematically then what we'll call the savings function as S, savings, is equal to negative C bar, what we could call autonomous savings, plus the MPS, the marginal propensity to save, times income, Y. And here you can see the mathematical proof for that, but you don't need to worry too much about remembering that. Autonomous investment, then, is the other component of aggregate demand in this simplified model. Now, according to Keynes, investment is determined by a number of factors, but most importantly, business expectations of future conditions. For Keynes and the Keynesian model, investment is not going to be determined through the loanable funds market. Keynes and the post-Keynesians reject outright this loanable funds market. In any case, the important point for our purposes here is that investment is not a function of income. Investment will not go up or down with income in this simplified model, which is just to say that investment is autonomous in the same sense as autonomous consumption is autonomous. Investment is simply a constant in our function. We'll write it as I sub I, the subscript I indicating that we're talking about intended investments, planned investments in real productive factors that businesses buy. So once again, in this simplified model, aggregates demand is decomposed into the consumption function and investments. The consumption function has an autonomous component, autonomous consumption, C bar, and then investment is also autonomous. Both of these are constants in determining aggregates demand. The other function, then, the MPC times Y, tells us by how much aggregates demand will increase when income, Y, increases.